So I heard somewhere that skinny jeans were out, but if you are a millennial, then you already know we are holding the stock on skinny jeans. So that means that we probably have so many in our closets that now that skinny jeans are out, and don't get me wrong, your girl's very excited about wide leg jeans being in, but what are we going to do with those skinny jeans? That is what this here video is dedicated to. Now, much like many of you, when it comes to skinny jeans being in my closet, your girl's got plenty. In fact, I actually had 2 pair of these skinny jeans that were essentially identical, just in different colors. So what I did was I took these skinny jeans, voila, and I wish I had the capability to do like a swap motion and it magically appear on my body, but that's not where we are in our video editing skills. So listen, you guys are just going to have to see me step back and get excited about what I'm about to show you, okay? Today we're going to be making this here very cute little mini skirt. You can make it as many or as not many as you want to. For the record, I am 41, so your girl is not going to be out here giving us OnlyFans show because, listen, don't get me wrong. The economy says the money is tight, but not that tight, okay? Okay, so now that we see what we're going to be making, let's talk about the things that you need. It's not going to be very many things. I do highly recommend making sure that you do have a denim needle because we are going to be using denim. Now, the denim that I'm using is a stretch denim, so I can get away with the universal needle, and so can you. Honestly, universal needles are called universal for a reason, but in order for you to get the best use, definitely make sure that you've got that denim needle, okay? Some other things that you'll find useful are an acrylic ruler, especially if you plan on using a rotary cutter to go ahead and do your cutting. If you're not a rotary cutter baddie, then you can go ahead and make sure that you've got your fabric shears. This is completely optional, but I do recommend going ahead and grabbing some chalk or another marking tool. This is just your basic chalk. I got this from like Madame So. Fantastic. I am not someone who loves using pins, but if you are someone who does love using pins, definitely pull those out as well. But we will also need some clips or pins as well as your iron and ironing board. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this upcycle project. So I'm taking a pair of old skinny jeans. As we can see here, we've got the narrowing in the leg. And then what I'm going to do, because you guys already know my booty is big. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm cutting, and I'm making sure to cut really close at the seat of my curve. Why? Because listen, we got to make sure that we have as much as we can get on that fabric end. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab my acrylic ruler, and we're going to just go ahead and we're going to just cut a straight line straight across from there. Okay. Now, if you are using scissors as opposed to a rotary cutter, then go ahead and draw your line across so that way you can make sure that you're cutting a straight line. Because I am anti like fabric shear, just kidding. You know, we all have our tools that we love. For me, I love a good handy dandy rotary cutter, and so I'm just going to go ahead and cut straight across, just like that. Okay, my blade needs to be changed like nobody's business. So now that I've got this set up, now what I want to do is just take a look, because of course down here we've still got some seams, which is fine because I'm just going to go ahead and cut that at this natural seam that they have right here. For this, of course, I will be using my handy dandy fabric shears. And obviously I have a look because these are also iridescent. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that here. You can always seam rip if you want to. I'm not going to. And so now, of course, we're left with this as being our base for starting. To make sure that we're set up the right way, I am going to go ahead and even this line out as well. I'm going to just use a smaller acrylic ruler so that I don't do too much. And here's what I do like. I do like that this is naturally curving down, right? Because that's going to kind of give me an organic little full booty adjustment, right? Because it's going to go ahead and give me that extra space, that extra length right in the area that I legit need it. So, but I am going to go ahead and cut this off into that straight line. We're going to do the exact same thing in the front just to kind of even that on out. Now, I will say that the front, it feels kind of weird. Like when I did my daughter's, I almost felt like I should have stitched this together in order to kind of get that a little bit more flat. Instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I am going to seam rip this area right here just so that it can give me a more flat appearance. As with anything, any of these tools that you use, make sure that your seam ripper is nice and sharp, okay? Because like a dull seam ripper is like a dull person. Nobody feels like that shit, okay? There we go. I am going to just seam rip this part out. I'm lying. I'm going to cut that right off. Because we just simply do not need that. So what is the point in doing all that work when we just don't even need it? Okay. But the reason why I'm thinking that we need to seam rip is because you see how that is curving? That's not laying flat. But let's see what this is looking like. I just want to verify one more time to see what I can get away with versus what I can't. And so we're seeing, you see how that's like kind of coming together in that area? That's kind of what I want to avoid. And if you look at the back, we don't have that happening back here. So that's what we're going to seam rip for so that we can make sure that we don't have any of that gapping. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to seam rip. Y'all, I'm like very mad because I do legit feel like I need to seam rip this. This is a stretch denim, but I am going to go ahead and mark up to where I feel like the seam ripping needs to end. So I feel like I need to just do it up until this point. So let's go ahead and mark that. I'm just going to be using a little bit of chalk to just mark that for myself. Because look, we're not trying to do any extra work if we don't have to. You feel me? So let's just go ahead and seam rip this. You guys, I heard that Fiskars came out with this like tabletop seam ripper where you just like bungee it on your table. I don't know if that would work for me. Do you think that's something that would work for you? Having a tabletop seam ripper? I'll drop a link to it if I can find it. Okay. So we did that first row. That second row came out nice and easy. Okay. So now I feel like it needs to crisscross like that to kind of give us that more flush appearance. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to go ahead and pin that together. Y'all already know I hate pinning. So in order for me to use a pin, you should already know that this is like, actually, we're going to go ahead and completely cross this over like this. You see how now that is laying beautiful and flush. So we're going to do that. We're going to clip that in place because y'all already know I'm anti-pin. Clipping that in place like so. And I might need to even because what I want is this already existing seam to kind of lay as flat as we can get it. So I feel like I've got about 3/4 of an inch overlapping here. And then I'm just going to, I'm not going to trim it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end up folding this under because I feel like that is going to give us like just a little fold under like that is going to give us what we need right there. And that looks really good to me. And so I'm going to top stitch this in place as my first step. So let me go ahead and do that and then we'll go through the rest. Okay, so I went ahead and I stitched this area down. So we're finished with this area for right now. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take those pant legs and we're gonna cut those up. We're gonna cut those up. So what I'm using is, because for the way that my booty is set up, y'all, I need the total length of this area. So the measurement of this cuff is going to be essentially what determines the full measurement that I have for the length of the pleating that we're going to add on. So now this is measuring my handy dandy ruler, and what I'm measuring is from seam to seam. So seam to seam, this is giving us about 5 inches. And I feel like 5 inches, that's a good amount, right? Because the typical mini skirt length is going to be about 14 inches from your waist on down to that area. And so I'm going to just go ahead and layer the other pant leg on top of this. And so now I will have a total of essentially 4 pieces. So what I'm going to do is, just to kind of make it a little bit easier for me, I am going to go ahead and use my handy dandy ruler to go ahead and measure out what this cut is going to essentially give me. So now at this end, we've got a little bit of distressing, which I really like. So I'm going to kind of use this as the basis. And actually it's looking like I can have a little bit more than that 5 inches, honestly. So I feel like that's going to work for us, but I'm going to go ahead and use my bigger ruler so that I can truly see. Let's see here. Just going to measure that out. And so just to kind of make sure that I'm actually measuring in a straight line, I'm lining this up with the edge of my mat, or not the edge of the mat, but a part of my mat that I can see and make sure that I'm doing a straight line. Okay, this feels good. We're going to just go ahead and cut this. The beautiful thing about upcycling, or for me anyway, is that I'm not about to make this perfect, right? Perfection is not my goal. My goal is to transform what once was and I no longer use into something that I legit will wear. Yeah, that was like the most unstraight line ever. Let me stop messing around. But my goal, of course, is to transform. I'm going to have to cut that with actual scissors. Something that I was no longer wearing into something that I legit want to wear, you know? And granted, for some people, perfection is going to be it. For me, I am never looking to make something perfect. I'm looking to make something wearable. Okay. So here we've got our strips. Now I'm going to go ahead and get down into the nitty gritty of the cuff, or the seam of these pants, and boom. So now this is giving me, and look at how much scrap I have left over. That's it. That's all that's going to be left over from this upcycle project. So now this is in essence going to go ahead and give me the strips that I'm going to turn into the pleats. Okay, so we've got this, and I am going to go ahead and cut off this seam at the bottom. Why? Because I don't need that. That's going to just, it's just going to be something else that is going to make it difficult. So just cut that off. We don't need that. Again, if you're a perfectionist, whip out your ruler to do that. That is not me. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to sew these together with our right sides together. So we're going to pin this right sides together. That is definitely the wrong side. And we're going to create a circle. So we're going to be pinning all of our right sides together to create a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. My seam allowance is just basically whatever I can get in there. No, I'm just joking. I'm doing a 1/4 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance for this because, again, I just need bare minimum. Okay, so I've gone ahead and sewn together all 4 of these pieces, okay? So we have a total of, let's measure it out. Let's see. So I'm going to line this up, of course, with my actual seam allowance. And it's giving us a total of 22.5 inches. So that is 45. So we have a total of 90 inches effectively that we are working with. And yes, I just did the math in my head really quickly. Now I'm going to go ahead and measure out what the base of this skirt is. Because, of course, we're going to multiply that by 2. And so we've got, this front is 22 inches. And so if we divide, so essentially we've got about the back probably being closer to the 23 inches. So this is 90, This is 45. So that'll give you a little inkling of how many pleats that we can kind of get in. So if we're dividing it by 2, right, that's essentially what we're doing, then we're getting that many pleats. Now, I want to be completely honest with you guys here. This is not something that I do in exact nature. I am essentially just going to pleat this together. I want all of my right sides facing out, because what I want to line up is I definitely want, one, this piece here dips down, and I want that to be on the back of my skirt, but I want it to be like this. So that is important for me to note, because I really would like for it to be attached like this. So that is just a mental note for myself that I'm going to just go ahead and label towards the back. Why am I doing that? Because I prefer having this amount of length in my largest area, if that makes sense. So this is going to be the area that I begin pleating, and I want this to be in the back area. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to make the pleats. Now, if you are someone who is like, oh, I need for mine to be exact in nature, by all means, make that pop. For me, I am going to just grab hold to a bunch of clips, and we're just going to be pinching it out. Now, I am going to be doing some knife pleats. The reason why I'm doing knife pleats is because I feel like it'll be easier for me to hide my seams. So this is going to be lined up with this center area here. So I'm just going to turn that into a small pleat. And when I tell you guys that this is essentially what I do want my pleats to be bigger, because I don't really want a whole, like, I'm not trying to have like a bunch of pleats. So I think that for me, I want a total of like 8 pleats in the front, which means that I want 4 pleats on either side. Now, the way that you're going to do this for yourself is that depending upon how many pleats that you want, that'll give you what you need to divide your stuff by. Again, I am not trying to be a pleated sensation, so I only want 8. So for me, in between these 2 points, I need for there to be 4 pleats. So I'm just going to go ahead and just going to go ahead, pleat this on out just like that. And then I'm going to line it up and see how and see exactly how, like if I like it or if I want it to be different. And so now I've put 4 of these in. We're going to just see how that lines up. It's giving us essentially kind of what we need. I do feel like I need to make some of these pleats a little bit smaller in order for it to fit the way that it needs to. So I'm going to just extend that. And so this is what you're going to do until your entire skirt is pleated. Okay. I'm going to move this one over some more. So you're just going to make your pleats. If you were into doing math, definitely calculate how many pleats that you need to do in order to make that pop for you. Again, girl is not into that. And there's actually a calculator out there. If I can remember it, I'll link that in the caption. So that way you can get the exact amount of pleats that you'll need and have that spaced out in, I don't want to say a better way, but in a more mathematically inclined way. So I'm going to finish pleating this out, and then I'll show you all what it looks like before I go ahead and do my attachment. Okay, so this is essentially what this skirt is looking like now. We've got a pretty even match. There is about maybe a half of an inch that I've got to make an adjustment for. And there is some pleating that I do want to adjust, but this is giving me my starting point and how I would like to make my adjustment. So from here, like, to me, there's too much of a distance in between these two. And then of course we do need that additional half of an inch over here. So I'm just going to widen that up, and then I'm going to move this pleat down so that visually it looks like it's more even. And just reclip it. And I'm going to do the same with this one because I feel like it's too close to this other pleat. Okay, this feels like there could be less distance, which kind of works because I'm going to give myself a little bit more space on that side. So I'm going to move this down some more. Move this over a little bit. And so now I'm just adjusting to make sure. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A little bit more pleats than we wanted, but now we've got this in here. Now, visually, this side is kind of bothering me because it's not lining up, or at least on this side, it looks like they're closer together, whereas this side, it looks like they're further apart. So I am going to go ahead and make that adjustment. So I'm going to move this one so that this one is closer. Also just probably not that close, but here we go. That feels a lot better. And I'm going to also just give us that there. Clip that into place, and then we're going to move this one as well. And so by just kind of scooching these down, we're going to just redistribute that spacing. And so whenever I do my pleats, and now this one I want to actually stay this way. And the reason why is because this is where our center seam is. So I'm just going to adjust the other ones around it. Let me see. This is actually where this kind of belongs. So let me reset that up. Okay. Okay. Visually, this is looking good. I like that. We've got this on the hip. We've got another pleat on that hip. Now I want to take a look at what it's looking like on the back. Okay, visually back here, it's looking okay. There seems to be too close pleating in these. So I'm going to just, again, redistribute that. So that I can move this kind of over this way. And then we're going to separate that some. Add a little bit more space in between there. And that's looking a lot better. I am going to make this come in. Yes, that feels so much better. Okay, and so now we're just going to go ahead and put our right sides together and attach our skirt bottom to the skirt top. Now, for me, I'm just going to do this on my Bernina L890 because I can do, of course, a chain stitch at the same time as doing a serger stitch. And because this is a stretch denim, I do need to make sure that I'm using a stretch stitch so that the integrity of the fabric and the design actually works fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I will say that this next step is completely optional. You don't have to press it. The skirt is basically done at this point. What I will say is that, and here is a look at the skirt, and we can see here that it is in place. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and press it, right? Because I want to go ahead and press my pleats into place. I wish I had done a better job of lining this one up, but it's not going to stop me from wearing it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and press this into place, and then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this. Now, I am going to be top stitching in a denim thread just to make sure that it matches the existing threads that are used. But the other piece that is completely optional is whether or not you decide that you would like to hem it. So I am going to leave mine unhemmed because as I wash it, I do want that distressed look for it because I think that that is really cute. But if you are not into that distressed look, then you can go ahead and hem this garment, and then that will be your finishing point. I've already tried this on, and I decided that based off of how it looked, that I think that it'll be better if I leave my hem to be distressed, because even though it feels mini on me, it's not too short. Like, it's not so short that I would feel uncomfortable wearing it. So I feel like that is a win. So I'm going to go ahead and press not just the pleats into place, but I also want to make sure that I'm pressing these areas that are going to need to be top stitched, meaning this area right here. So that way it's, looking good. Now, one of the things that you can do if you're like, hey, I want my pressing to stay put, you can always go ahead and do a single stitch down to hold your pleats in place. I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like it's necessary. I like how it kind of looks with it being just like out and about and just like flailing about, honestly. I feel like that adds to the look of the skirt. So I'm going to continue pressing this and then I'm going to do my top. And just like that, this skirt is done. So I'm going to try it on with you guys on here because when I tell you that this was hands down the easiest, fastest upcycle, it is time for me to go pick my kids up, but I was able to just go ahead and record this with enough time to go ahead and record it so that you guys can see it. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this fits. Look at how cute this is. And again, like I said, it does not feel too short that like, if I bend down, I'm showing off the sun, the moon, and the stars. And I feel like that's something that's really important to me because, of course, while don't get me wrong, I love a hoochie hem, but also I'm active, especially because I've got kids. So I've got to be able to drop down, pick something up, pick up a kid, etc., because I do have my nieces and nephews. So this is something that I really feel like is versatile enough to kind of give me the edge that I like when I get dressed while also being really functional for my lifestyle. But let's take a look at how I would actually style this. All right, friends. So in the beginning of the video, you already saw how I had this styled. I did just throw on my emotional support cardigan, which is also made by me. This is the Made for Mermaids Faye cardigan. I do have on my compression socks because your girl's got vein issues, and I felt like it was perfect to pair with some Birkenstocks. So dressed like this, I feel like I am perfectly ready to go and run carpool and be the cute, trendy mom who is put together but still super comfortable. The beautiful thing about this kind of skirt is that you can dress it up. Like I could easily put on some thigh-high boots and maybe another crop top or a bodysuit, and it gives it a completely different look, which means that, y'all, the styling options for this are truly endless. If you are someone like me who has to wear compression socks, this is a super cute look for those compression socks. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video. Thank you so much for tuning in if you've made it this far. And let me know if there's some other upcycles that you'd like to see me do down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with a friend who you feel like would take advantage of this type of content. Otherwise, I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Happy sewing.